Donald Trump's final White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has reportedly been granted immunity in the federal election interference case against the former president. Sources familiar with the matter tell ABC News that Meadows has met with special counsel Jack Smith's team at least 3 times this year, including once before a federal grand jury. In those conversations, Meadows reportedly shared that in the weeks following the 2020 election, he told then-President Trump multiple times that allegations of significant voter fraud were baseless. He also reportedly admitted to investigators that Trump was being, quote, dishonest when he falsely claimed that he won the election in a speech just hours after the polls closed.
Despite allegedly saying those things behind closed doors, Meadows has repeatedly claimed in public the election was stolen, including in his 2021 memoir. But ABC News reports that when speaking with investigators, the former chief of staff conceded that even he doesn't believe some of the statements in his own book. Meadows reportedly has been granted immunity in the federal case. He still faces racketeering charges, though, in the Georgia election interference probe, where he has pleaded not guilty. NBC News has not confirmed ABC's reporting on all of this. In a statement to NBC, Meadows' attorney writes, quote, "I told ABC their story is largely inaccurate. People will have to judge for themselves the decision to run it anyway." Let's bring in the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, NBC News justice and intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, former U.S. attorney and senior FBI official Chuck Rosenberg, and the former lead investigator for the House January 6th committee, Timothy Hayfie. Good morning to you all. Timothy, I guess we should start with you, as you're the lead investigator in all of this around January 6th for the committee that completed its work last year. How significant is this development, potentially, as reported by ABC News, an immunity deal for Mark Meadows? And remind our viewers, if you would, what he might be able to share about those days around the 6th and around the claims of a stolen election.
Yeah, Willie, it's very significant. He is probably the person closest to former President Trump throughout the post-election period and all day on January 6th. You know, he's there for all the discussions about the election, all of the prongs of the multi-part plan to try to disrupt the joint session. And then importantly, he's with President Trump all day on January 6th at the Ellipse. And then in that dining room as the violence is unfolding at the Capitol. And if he is now providing a thorough and detailed account of all of these interactions with the president, it could be tremendously significant for both Jack Smith and potentially for Fani Willis. It's hard for me to imagine that a defendant cooperates in case 1 and doesn't then subsequently go on to cooperate in case 2.
Well, Jonathan Lemire, again, you wrote the book on January the 6th, everything leading up to January 6th. And let's, again, we're assuming that the ABC reporters have this right. They haven't retracted it at this point. They have multiple sources on this. And Donald Trump is known for some time. I mean, you've reported for some time they've been very concerned about Mark Meadows, who went quiet, and whose attorney has continued to say bland, generic things to reporters. But in this case, if ABC has this story right, just how devastating is it to Donald Trump and his claims of fraudulent election?
Extraordinarily so. And let's just take a second to reiterate just how close Meadows was with Trump. When Donald Trump contracted COVID in October, Mark Meadows rode in Marine One with him, accompanied him in the helicopter to Walter Reed, spent the night in former President Trump's hospital room when he was there at the hospital for a couple of days. He was undyingly loyal. And in those weeks after the election, as the West Wing began to hollow out, people were departing, staff departures, there was another COVID outbreak. Meadows remained there the entire time. And we know he was in the Oval Office repeatedly on January 6th, trying to get Trump's attention. Trump holed up in that private dining room just off of the Oval, watching the highlights, if you will, on television. Meadows trying to get him to stop listening to Ivanka Trump and others. He was there throughout the process, throughout the efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election results. You know, he was privy to a lot of the memos being circulated. He was right there at the front lines. And Trump people I spoke to last night They, of course, pushed back on the ABC report. They pointed out the lawyer said it wasn't quite right. We'll see. But there's one thing. It's one thing if Jenna Ellis or Sidney Powell, who are these attorneys, are flipping in the Georgia case. The Trump team concerned, but largely thinks that would be something they can get through. Mark Meadows would be an entirely different story. Meadows, as we can see here, the latest to turn on Trump, he is someone who could have extraordinarily damaging testimony against the former president.
No question.
And there's the headline. They're all turning on Trump. Obviously, Ken Delaney and we have the Jenna Ellis story out of Georgia that we'll get to in a bit. I'm curious what you believe the impact of Mark Meadows turning on Donald Trump would be, and also your reaction to Meadows' attorneys. I don't know that I'd quite call it a non-denial denial. It may have been too clever by half. We've all seen people put statements out like that when they found one or two words weren't exactly right, and then tried to dismiss the overall story. But what's your take on all of it?
That's a great assessment, Joe. As you can imagine, we've all at NBC News done some reporting behind the scenes on this, and the informed speculation about this denial is, or the question is there some issue around the immunity question? Was there some imprecision in the ABC News report? There's a lot of different ways that a witness can get immunity. You can get what's known as queen for a day, proffer immunity, use immunity. So there may be some inaccuracies there. But the gist of what Mark Meadows is telling investigators, no one is disputing that, including Donald Trump's lawyers are not publicly disputing that. And just think of the impact before a jury of having one of Donald Trump's closest aides testify that he told the president he lost the election and that he'd seen nothing that would suggest that there are any fraud claims that could overturn the election, and yet Donald Trump was pursuing them anyway. Legal experts have said that prosecutors don't need to show that Donald Trump believed he lost the election in order to prove these criminal claims against Mr. Trump, but it sure would be helpful for a jury if they could establish that. Juries are humans, after all, and it paints a larger picture of fraud. And this also underscores that people with lives and careers independent of Donald Trump are not going to go down for him. They're not going to face millions of dollars in legal bills and potential years in prison to protect Donald Trump. Maybe a few people who've worked for him for his whole life, who are in lower level jobs, have this kind of blind loyalty. We've seen that. But not these major Washington figures or minor figures like a Jenna Ellis. They're just not willing to do it. And this stuff is really crumbling around Donald Trump.